September 17th, 2013. Grand Theft Auto 5 launches to the world. It sells $800 million worth of copies in 24 hours. Within 3 days, it crosses $1 billion in revenue. It becomes the fastest selling entertainment product in history, bigger than any movie, any album, any other game that came before it. And then Rockstar Games, the studio behind it, essentially stops releasing new games. Not entirely, not technically, but for all practical purposes, they go quiet. 13 years pass. An entire generation of consoles comes and goes. The studio that once shipped Vice City, San Andreas, Bully, and Manhunt all within a few years now operates on a completely different timeline. By the time GTA 6 finally arrives in 2026, Rockstar will have released exactly 2 major new titles in 13 years. 2. GTA 5 in 2013, Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018. That's it. In an industry built on annual releases, on sequels and spin-offs and quarterly earnings pressure, Rockstar has somehow positioned itself to release 1 game per decade and not only survive but dominate. This isn't inefficiency. This isn't creative perfectionism run amok. This is structural power. And understanding why it works reveals something fundamental about how leverage changes the rules entirely. The industry norm. Let's establish what normal looks like. Most game publishers operate on predictable cycles. Activision releases a new Call of Duty every single year. Ubisoft rotates Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Watch Dogs on staggered schedules. EA ships annual sports titles like Clockwork, Madden, FIFA, NHL, because their revenue model depends on regular recurring product launches. This isn't arbitrary, it's structural. Publishers need cash flow. Developers need to keep teams employed between projects. Investors need quarterly earnings that show growth. Retailers need new inventory. The entire ecosystem is designed around frequency. And for most companies, slowing down means death. If you're Ubisoft and you skip a year of Assassin's Creed, you're not building anticipation, you're losing market share. You're letting competitors fill the gap. You're watching your developers get poached by studios with active projects. You're explaining to shareholders why revenue dropped. Frequency isn't just a creative choice, it's a survival mechanism, which makes Rockstar's timeline even more bizarre because they're not operating in some protected niche. They're competing in the exact same market, open-world action games, against studios that are shipping multiple titles per console generation. Ubisoft alone released 4 Assassin's Creed games, 3 Far Cry games, and 2 Watch Dogs games in the time between GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. So how does Rockstar survive this? And look, if you're already starting to see where this is going, if this kind of structural analysis is your thing, you might want to subscribe. Because we break down power systems for a living. No hype, no speculation. Just the mechanics of how things actually work. Stick around. The financial architecture. The answer starts with a number that sounds almost fictional. GTA 5 has generated over $10 billion in revenue. Not the GTA franchise. Not Rockstar as a company. One single game. $10 billion. By some estimates, closer to $12 billion by now. To put that in perspective, that's more than most Hollywood franchises generate across a dozen films. That's more than some entire publishers make in a decade of releases. That's enough money to fund 100 AAA game budgets and still have billions left over. But here's what makes it structurally different. GTA 5 didn't just sell well and fade, it became something else entirely. In September 2013, Rockstar shipped a $60 boxed product. Within 18 months, that product had transformed into a service platform. GTA Online launched alongside the main game, but it took time to mature. Heists arrived in 2015, content updates kept coming, microtransactions scaled up, and suddenly GTA 5 wasn't behaving like a game at all. It was behaving like a subscription business. By 2025, the game is still selling 5 million copies per quarter, more than a decade after launch. Most games are lucky to sell 5 million copies total, and those aren't just sales, they're new customers entering an ecosystem, because GTA Online is still active, still monetizing, still generating what Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar's parent company, calls recurrent consumer spending. Shark cards, in-game currency, the GTA Plus subscription service, a continuous revenue stream that doesn't require shipping a new product. This is the insulation. When your existing product throws off hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue every single year, you don't need to ship a new game to satisfy investors. You don't need to chase quarterly growth through volume. You don't need to play the same game everyone else is playing. You have leverage, and leverage changes everything. The second pillar. Now, one game could be an anomaly. One game could be lightning in a bottle. But Rockstar didn't just build one pillar, they built 2. Red Dead Redemption. 2 launched in October 2018. By the end of its first weekend, it had generated $725 million. Within 2 weeks, it crossed $1 billion. By 2025, it sold somewhere between 70 and 80 million copies, making it one of the top 10 best-selling games of all time. And just like GTA 5, it didn't fade. Red Dead Online followed the same playbook: live service content, microtransactions, ongoing support. Years after launch, RDR2 is still moving millions of units annually, so now Rockstar isn't relying on one massive hit, they have two of the biggest entertainment products ever made, both still generating revenue, both still culturally relevant, both acting as platforms rather than products. This is the financial moat. If your EA and Battlefield underperforms, you're in trouble. If you're Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed stalls, you're scrambling. But if you're Rockstar and you have GTA 5 and Red Dead 2 both printing money in perpetuity, you can afford to take your time, you can afford to wait. Production reality. But there's another layer here that matters. Because even if Rockstar wanted to ship games faster, the reality of what they build makes that nearly impossible. Modern Rockstar games are absurdly ambitious. They're not just large, they're systemically dense. GTA 5's Los Santos is not just a map, it's a simulated city with traffic patterns, pedestrian behaviour, weather systems, economic simulation. Red Dead 2 goes even further. Horse testicle physics became a meme, but it's indicative of a design philosophy that obsesses over detail at a level most studios would never attempt. This takes time. RDR2 reportedly took 8 years to develop, with thousands of people across multiple Rockstar studios working in coordination. The scope is so large that cutting corners isn't really an option, not if you want to maintain the standard that defines the brand. And here's the thing, most studios respond to rising scope by reducing ambition or introducing annualized teams. Ubisoft has multiple studios working on staggered Assassin's Creed releases. Call of Duty rotates between 3 different developers on a 3-year cycle. Rockstar just doesn't. They let the game take as long as it takes, because they can afford to. Which brings us to the strategic decision that most people misunderstand entirely. Scarcity is strategy. In a flooded market, absence is a weapon. Think about how most entertainment franchises operate. Marvel releases multiple films per year. Call of Duty ships annually. Netflix drops entire seasons at once. The default assumption in modern media is that more is better, that frequency builds habit, that presence builds brand. But Rockstar does the opposite, and it works precisely because everyone else is flooding the zone. When GTA 6 was finally announced, the internet didn't just react, it exploded. The first trailer broke records. The speculation was relentless. The anticipation was overwhelming. Why? Because people had been waiting 13 years. That wait wasn't a bug, it was the strategy. Consumer psychology research on scarcity shows that perceived rarity increases demand. When something is abundant, it's taken for granted. When it's scarce, it becomes an event. And Rockstar has turned their release cycle into the rarest event in gaming. Every GTA launch is a cultural moment. It's not competing with other games, it's competing with movie premieres, album drops, Super Bowls. The long absence creates a kind of anticipation that annual franchises can never replicate. Compare this to something like Assassin's Creed, which at one point was shipping every single year. Ubisoft eventually had to take a break because the franchise was fatiguing. People stopped caring. The annual cadence trained audiences to wait for sales, to skip entries, to treat each release as interchangeable. Rockstar has the opposite problem. They've trained audiences to treat each release as unmissable. And if this is making you rethink how companies actually build power instead of just chasing trends, well, that's exactly what we do here. We dissect the systems behind the headlines. So if that resonates, hit subscribe. We've got more of this coming. The executive layer. Now let's talk about Take-Two Interactive, because their incentive structure is what allows this entire model to function. Most publishers have diversified portfolios. Activision has Call of Duty, but also Overwatch, Diablo, World of Warcraft. EA has FIFA, Madden, Battlefield, Apex Legends, The Sims. Ubisoft has Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon. Take-Two has GTA, and Red Dead, and that's basically it. Sure, they own 2K Sports and have NBA 2K, but the company's valuation is almost entirely driven by Rockstar's 2 franchises, and Take-Two's executives are completely comfortable with that. Earnings calls emphasize catalog revenue, meaning sales of old games still moving units. They highlight recurrent consumer spending from GTA Online and Red Dead Online. They talk about franchise strength, not release cadence. Because here's the structural reality. Take-Two doesn't need Rockstar to ship every year. They need Rockstar to maintain 2 of the most valuable entertainment properties on the planet, and those properties are more valuable when they're treated as generational events rather than annual obligations. A single Rockstar launch can move 20, 30, 40 million units in its first year. It can reset engagement in the online ecosystem. It can generate billions in revenue. That's enough to justify multi-year gaps because the payoff when it arrives is so massive that it compensates for the silence in between. Most publishers can't do this. They don't have a GTA, they don't have the financial buffer, they don't have the brand strength, so they can't afford to be patient. But Take-Two can. And that patience is what creates the space for Rockstar's strategy to work. The power dynamic. So let's zoom out and see what this really reveals. Rockstar's decade-long release cycle is only possible because they occupy a structural position that almost no one else can replicate. They have financial insulation, existing products generating recurring revenue that removes the need for annual releases. Brand authority, cultural presence so strong that absence amplifies demand rather than eroding it. Production capacity, the resources and patience to build games at a scale that competitors can't match without similar runway. Executive alignment, a parent company whose incentives support long cycles rather than punishing them. Remove any one of these and the model collapses. If GTA Online stopped making money, Rockstar would need to ship faster. If audiences forgot about GTA during the wait, Scarcity would backfire. If Take-Two needed quarterly growth from new releases, the timeline would shorten. If production couldn't deliver on the ambition, the delays would be seen as failure rather than craftsmanship. But because all four layers align, Rockstar can do something almost no other major studio can do. They can wait. And waiting, in a world built on urgency, is a form of power. Here's the insight that matters. Most companies are structurally trapped in cycles they can't escape. They have to ship annually because their business model demands it. They have to chase trends because they lack the leverage to set them. They have to compete on volume because they don't have the brand strength to compete on scarcity. Rockstar escaped that trap. Not through luck, not through creative genius alone, but through building a financial and cultural architecture that gives them the freedom to operate on their own timeline. The long silence between games isn't inefficiency, it's proof of leverage. It's the luxury of a company that no longer has to play by the same rules as everyone else, because when you control a platform that generates billions in recurring revenue, when you command a brand so strong that a decade of absence only amplifies demand, when you have the resources to build at a scale no one else can match, you don't have to release every year. You can release once a decade, and the world will wait. That's how scarcity becomes authority. That's how patience becomes power. If you want more breakdowns of how systems actually work, not the narratives but the mechanics, subscribe. We're just getting started.